Hello. Okay. 1 second. Okay. I'm gonna make this video about sex and marriage. Basically, the whole thing for me is like sex and marriage are the same thing. It's like two people coming together, two entities, two beings coming together and being one person. That's it. It's really like that simple. And like to me, what I would prefer is that there was a lot less morality involved in this situation. I think practicality and morality are the same thing. Like, as much as something is practical, there is a moral in it. Like, all the stories or whatever, at the end they'd be like, so remember, if da 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 da, then, this is what happens or whatever. Like, that's it. Sex and marriage is the same thing. When people are having sex, they're married. If people are really married, then it's sex all the time. That's it. Like, yeah, love is a word, a concept or whatever that's definitely involved. What I think love is where, people are the same. It's like shared experience. So my whole thing is like, I think divorce is really, really, really great. Like, in the 1900s or whatever, I feel like that's the most important step humanity has taken, is that people are allowed to get divorced and, like, not be like shitty people because they got divorced. It is kind of heartbreaking though, to love someone and then be like apart from them. To have something with someone and then be like, it's not there anymore. It's over. It's like, it isn't something that was, now it isn't. Because it takes two people to get married. It takes two people to have sex. Like, one person having sex with someone, that's not sex. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, we could talk about things that are kind of like that, only they're kind of, you know what? I'll talk about it. Rape. That's basically what it is. And like, throughout history, lots of marriages have been rape. Like, arranged weddings, that's rape. Arranged marriages, like, all those times when they said like, oh, I'll give my daughter to this person, that's rape. That's what that is. Unless for some reason that daughter met the person she was going to marry and then was like, into it, and she's like, yeah, totally, then that's not rape, because then she's like into it. Or he, maybe there was lots of he's, I guess it could be he's too. Men or boys having arranged marriages, that would also be rape. So the thing is, like, the way I feel is that the way American society, the most liberal society, on this planet, or at least, we like to think of ourselves as such in certain ways. Okay, whatever. Like, our definition of marriage has been basically like borderline rape, or like at the very least like prostitution, because it's like, for people to get married, like, the man has to have money, he has to support the woman, and like, yeah, like, it's super all like people about equality now. Women can work if they feel like it most of the time. That doesn't mean like that chicks are all running around looking for dudes to be like, hey, I'll totally support you, you know? And even if like both partners are equally like of one mind and like, we'll both do this, we'll both be like, maybe not equally like down to the penny, 50-50, like we're both making the same exact amount of money and all that, because like whatever, it's still like people treat men who don't have jobs like they're pieces of shit. Like, women do it, men do it. It's disgusting. All this is going back to sex and marriage. Like, why do people have to make money to have sex? Why do people have to have money to get married? You could say like, yeah, it's practical to live in a house. Let's live in the same house, sleep in the same bed. Obviously, that seems like it's convenient. It's fun. It's practical. People who like being together get to be together, fine. Like, no objections there. My problem is that it's like, what if people are in love and they don't have money and they don't have jobs? Then what? Then their shit's out of luck. And the man is a slightly bigger shit out of luck if he doesn't have money. What I'm saying here is like free love, Free love. Maybe if people start with the stuff that's actually the most important, like love, like the reason for marriage in the first place, or the reason for sex, even if it's like what people would call casual sex, or like sex or a marriage that isn't like necessarily going to last for everyone's lives. If they start with that, maybe, if we start with that, if people who love each other start with the stuff that actually really matters, and then go from there, maybe they'll find a way. Maybe they'll find like, if their relationship is based on like the fact that they like being together and stuff. To me, that seems to be like much more practical, much more moral to base any relationship on like the most important part, on love, on like being together and stuff, instead of being like, like maybe when we have a house, maybe when we have more money, maybe when you get a car, maybe when, I'm not necessarily saying people should like meet and have sex right away. Although what I'm saying is that why not? I honestly don't think that's the shittiest thing people can do. especially if the people doing it are happy. So like, to like go back to the beginning and sum it up, like free love, free love, you know, free love, that's it. Like free love, people get to like love each other for free. Sex and marriage are the same thing. People who are like married like legally with rings and like, you know, a marriage license and a wedding ceremony, that's all frosting. That's all that is frosting. Like the cake, the real cake, it's sex, that they love being together. Like, not necessarily like the dictionary definition of like sexual intercourse, like, although like, you know, definitely that, if like, yeah, that's part of it, that's an important part or whatever. It's up to the people though, you know, like people who love being together, like being in love, that could be like anything those two people do together that makes them be like one person, you know. So like, you know, if people are really married, maybe that's every single part of their lives, or maybe that's like, you know, maybe a relationship could really be a series, you know, of getting married and getting divorced over and over and over again in small ways, or, you know, maybe noticeable larger ways. Like people are their own person and they come back together and they're together, and they are their own person and they come back together. So like the thing I really like is that people now are allowed to get divorced if they're not happy together. The thing I have a problem with is when anything in the world comes between people who love being together, like anything in the world, especially when it's like those people's like expectations of what love or marriage or sex is supposed to be. Like if it's working, then go for it, that's what I say. And if it's not working, then why pretend? Like, I don't think anyone deserves to have obligations because they made someone a promise about like who they are or like what they're going to do. You know? Love is something every person deserves. And really, I can't define it for anyone. By that same token, though, every person, I think, has the ability and the right to define what it is exactly they're looking for. And sometimes it's really, really hard to know that before, like, having, you know, experiences in relationships. Even someone who has had experiences might learn something new, and then, like, their ideas could change, their whole life could change because of what they go through. So my thing is, like, if love is free, I think divorce is a really great thing to like know that like every person has the right to it. And also, marriage can happen in an instant. It can happen in one moment. And for anyone who has been lucky enough to live on this planet and be in love, I would say don't underestimate that, because marriage doesn't make people fall in love. Having sex doesn't make people fall in love. It can, definitely. It can, you know, anything can. You know, life is sex, though. It's like things coming together and mixing together. Like being promiscuous, all that means, like what that word means, is in favor of mixing. If someone